Turbo Guard, Cougar Charlie 7-1, be advised, CYR 270.
1, push 3, 320.
Canadian Air Force Base, Cold Lake, Alberta.
This is Cold Lake Airport with information Delta.
They call it Fighter Town. A private playground for the fastest, deadliest brawlers on Earth. It's a sprawling aerial battlefield where fighter pilots from all over the world come to sharpen their hunting skills.
Get him. Get him.
He's got a tank. He's got a tank.
We got no power this game.
14,000.
Pull. Keep pulling.
But above all, Cold Lake is home to the 410 Cougars, the squadron that trains every Canadian fighter pilot. And this is their ride, the CF-18 Hornet. Big, fast, dangerous. At top speed, it'll do more than 1,100 miles an hour and carries a deadly payload. Radar-guided and heat-seeking missiles, bombs, and a 20mm cannon that'll punch out 100 rounds a second. But if you want to fly this baby, be prepared for a long, hard climb. And these would-be warriors are about to discover just what it takes. 7 of the most promising flyers in the Canadian Air Force Officer Corps. Hand-picked from thousands to get a shot at joining the world's most exclusive fight club.
Just feel your ass shake.
For the next 9 months, these rookies will have to prove themselves every day in a battle school so intense, not everyone will survive it. They say fighter pilots aren't born, they're built. And this is the place they make them. These 7 are already first-rate flyers, but that won't count for much here. The fighter pilot training course at 410 Squadron will be the toughest challenge of their careers. It's a one-time shot at fulfilling a dream. Lieutenant Seamus Allen. He's been waiting for this day since a plane ride in the 4th grade got him hooked.
Since then, everything that I've done has been for that. And the jets look so incredible to me. I mean, why fly slow when you can fly fast?
Captain Tristan McKee was flying before he learned to drive. A foot soldier he's not.
There's different definitions of warrior, you know, the gung-ho infantry guys running around in the forest. Yeah, I'm not really one of them, so.
Captain Mike Lewis. He's the old man of the group and the most experienced, with 1,000 hours of seat time. He's been chasing this dream forever.
I grew up in a hockey town where everyone wanted to be in the NHL, but I wanted to be a jet pilot. And there's actually a little film my mom has. And my mom goes, "What do you want to do when you grow up?"
I'm going to be a fighter pilot.
From that moment on, this is all I've ever wanted to do.
Captain Yannick Jobin. Once a competitive gymnast who shifted his focus to flying a lot higher. intensely private, but if looks could kill.
I look angry all the time. I got a mean face. I look like a killer.
Captain Tim Coffin, the guy with the Hollywood jaw. A Prince Edward Island boy with an attitude so impossibly positive, it would be cliché if it wasn't so real.
No matter what, come into work with a smile on your face, show everybody that you want to be here. It's something my parents taught me growing up, is just to be the best you can.
In the fighter culture, a woman is a rare bird. But don't be fooled by the teddy bear. Captain Riel Erickson comes from a long line of sharpshooters. There's only one female fighter pilot in Canada. She aims to make it too.
I don't do anything any differently than they do, for the most part, other than how I pee.
And Captain Mike Dunning, a weekend warrior with the Cold Lake Penguins rugby team. A bit of an outsider, he's an engineer, but the only one of them whose degree didn't come from Royal Military College.
It is everything you wanted to do, so there's that added pressure of wanting to succeed. So that's a little bit intimidating, I think.
Relax, have a seat. Welcome to Fighter Town and welcome to the F-18.
Day one at fighter school starts with an introduction to the instructors and a warning.
This is the first airplane that you're flying in your career that is not inherently stable, okay? So respect that aircraft at all times. Your previous experience counts for that much. Preschool, okay? This is what 410 is, okay? Finger painting and sing-songs. If I've got some cocky cowboy guy that thinks he's the best thing to ever strap on an airplane, I will ride him and grill him on the numbers just from the moment he sets foot in the squadron until he leaves.
Major Mike Ailing, call sign, Flailing. The standards officer who keeps a close watch on the students' progress. A guy with high expectations and a low tolerance for attitude.
Any closer, and if I was your lead, I would have punched you. No shit. That is a serious error. Could be life and death, man.
At one point, he comes right through the middle of it, and I'm like, you know what? I should just haul on the stick here and just gun his ass right now.
Yeah.
Major John Argue, call sign, Spanky. The deputy commanding officer. A combat veteran and one of the most senior instructors. When the major is riding shotgun on you, think of him as corporal punishment.
What's with all this rudder? Get it off. Oh, sorry. You're going to arc this fight, and you're going to die for it.
At this school, the faculty are all graduates, now seasoned fighters, many combat veterans of Bosnia and Kosovo.
So we're going to take off. Flailing, you're going to be on the wing. Spanky, fighting wing, chases out.
Their current mission, keeping the students under the gun, will prove to be a test for them all.
They are going to suck right now, but we're going to make them better. That's our job.
Good morning.
One thing they can't have when they're taking their baby steps is a big ego.
They don't need just a light sand, a quick thing, run them back up here and just get them cleaned up.
So we have to break that down almost right off the bat.
And what better way to strip down their egos than to order them to spend the day stripping furniture?
This is overly difficult for me. I'm not checked out on the sandpaper block.
We're the most junior members in the squadron, so we get all the worst jobs, obviously. And no matter how well we clean it, it's not going to be clean enough.
Just get her done.
A not-so-gentle reminder that no matter how far they think they've come, here, they're starting at zero.
Just remember, right now you're lower than whale shit on the bottom of the ocean.
Now that it's established where they rank in the squadron pecking order, the real work begins.
This is what we have to learn in the next 3 weeks.
The flight manual for the Hornet is 900 pages of excruciating detail.
It's not the end of the world if I miss a switch.
Yes, it is. You're done.
They'll be tested on all of it before their first month is out. And they need to know it cold, or they're gone.
The pass mark is 85. We rarely ever see anybody under 95%. Just to put a little bit of pressure on. They have to learn at the pace we set for them, and if they don't, then obviously they're probably not going to make the cut.
And that's not like, all right, here's time to read it. Any questions? It's like...
Veteran pilots call this information overload drinking from the fire hose. It's relentless, and it's deliberate. The instructors need to know that these upstarts can handle the heat.
In a wartime scenario with bombs leaving aircraft and missiles flying and bullets being shot at them, what are they going to do in that moment of truth?
There's a lot of pressure, and everyone finds ways of relieving it. Mike Dunning takes it out on the rugby pitch. It's a rough way to spend the weekend. And he's got the Monday morning shiner to prove it.
From the girlfriend?
Wasn't from any kind of extracurricular activities that you may be thinking about. It's from rugby, yes.
In this crowd, anything that sets you apart is reason for razzing. Seamus has a habit of fidgeting under stress, and it's already made him a marked man.
What are we at?
I'd say minor.
Well, I think we're almost at mouse banging.
No.
He's getting tired, so...
Can't do it till he's
No, we're in visual shape right now. As the afternoon progresses, we'll start doing mouse banging.
You guys are terrible for putting that on there.
Just give him a demonstration.
No, there's no demos.
Within a few days, no one will be laughing. The next hurdle will determine if they can take the kind of grueling punishment a fighter jet dishes out.
2, 1, launch.
If not, it'll slam the brakes on any future as a fighter pilot.
Keep it going.
The Human Centrifuge facility in Toronto. It's a long way from Cold Lake, Alberta. For any fighter pilot in training, walking into this building is like stepping into a modern-day torture chamber.
We're going to launch this AR-6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1, launch.
The Human Centrifuge is designed to simulate the physical stresses a fighter pilot must battle against in a real jet. As a pilot turns or climbs, he's defying gravity. The tighter the turn, the harder gravity pushes back on him. It's a phenomenon they call pulling G's, and fighter jets do it more brutally than any machine on Earth. At 2G, a 200-pound pilot instantly feels like he weighs twice that much.
3Gs.
Ramp it up to 5G, and it's as though his flight suit just turned into 1,000 pounds of lead.
Once you start pulling G, it's like bench pressing your chest. Everything in there is pulling down. It makes it very hard to breathe.
Under G-load, blood drains from the head and pools in the legs, leading to tunnel vision, or worse, G-lock, G-induced loss of consciousness. In a jet, hurtling toward the ground, G-lock can be a death sentence.
Heels down, toes up, and you'll feel more muscle come into play.
So fighter pilots must learn to overcome it. And for a rookie, it's the first big test. 3 of the students have already passed. Now, the remaining 4 must face the challenge. They'll strap in and get spun till they pass. or pass out.
Who wants to try it first?
Mike, I know you do.
Survival depends on mastering something called the anti-G straining maneuver. The trick is to tense the leg and stomach muscles to prevent the blood from heading south.
Abs tight, butt tight. You want to lift yourself off the seat. 1, 2, out.
And to breathe in short, quick bursts.
1.
If they can keep the blood in their brain, they can keep from losing consciousness.
Out and relax. I can see the color starting to come already.
Yeah, I'm making myself lightheaded.
Yeah.
This is the G suit, and basically it has bladders in the thigh muscle and the abdomen, which inflate under G forces at varying pressures to squish your lower extremities to keep the blood in your head.
They'll wear the suit like they would in a real jet. But for this test, the suit will not inflate. They need to prove they can sustain high G forces completely on their own. First up, the rugby jock, Mike Dunning.
Yeah, we'll do that. You ready?
All right, I really got to give her.
Each student must complete a series of tests, culminating in a sustained run of 6 Gs for 15 long seconds.
Mike, you ready for an auto?
Ready.
Give it everything you got, okay?
Launching AR-6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1, launch. Get aggressive. Get aggressive. Hard. Bigger strain. More leg. More leg. There's out. 1, 2,
and relax.
There you go. And relax.
Good stuff.
How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm tired though.
Yeah, you look a little white.
I noticed a couple times my vision started to come in a bit, and I had to strain all the more, just to get it back. And the breathing was difficult for me. I had trouble keeping the pressure in my chest.
Still, he's passed the test. Now, it's Riel's turn.
All right, I think I'm ready. I am ready. Oh, okay.
Good. Launching AR-6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1.
Reload.
Launch. Out. On top of 6. 1, 2. Out. 1, 2. Out.
Watch the strain in Riel's face as she fights to breathe, with the equivalent of half a ton of weight on her chest.
And coming down. Excellent. And relax. Okay.
A little beat up, but she's through.
Once you're at that point, it's just a steady.
Now,
steady
the only
pressure.
students who have yet to pass the test
2. Out.
are Captains Lewis and Jobin.
Out.
You ready to go?
Yep.
Alrighty, let's do her.
Jobin goes first.
You ready to go?
Ready to go.
We will launch this R6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1. On top.
2, out. Deeper breaths. Out. Out. Okay, Joey, sit up. Sit up. Put your head back on the headrest there. That's it. Focus straight ahead.
8 seconds in, Jobin didn't get his breathing right, and he G-locked. It was brief, but it's still a fail.
Get angry with it in the, yeah, exactly. That's
Mike Lewis is last in line. He's logged more hours in jets and pulled Gs more often than any of the others. But he still has to prove himself in the centrifuge.
we'll get you strapped in. let's do her. All right, over to you, operator, to launch.
And we will launch this R6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1. On top.
Hang in there. Keep it going.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Oh. Okay, keep your head back in the headrest. Nats, I'm here. Nats, I'm talking to you.
Yep.
Keep your head back. All right.
Yep.
There you go. Good. All right. Okay. Do you know what happened there, Nats?
Oh, yeah, I blacked out.
Okay, you blacked out. Okay.
How far did you let me go?
You had about 13 seconds there.
Son of a...
Yeah, you was very close.
Lewis has missed the mark
13 seconds? Are you kidding me?
by just 2 seconds.
Okay, we're bringing it to a full stop.
The time it takes to turn a page or crack a beer.
That makes me enraged.
So close.
It's harsh, but harsher still for this to happen in an F-18 hurtling toward the ground at hundreds of miles an hour. Even after coming to, the pilot remains confused for several seconds. Enough time for time to run out.
It only took 3 seconds for me to recover, but in those 3 seconds, I thought I was sitting in my grade 2 classroom and my teacher was telling me to put my head up, and it was actually the guy talking to me. Failing? None of us have really failed too much. That's why we are where we are.
It's a pain in the ass. You have to come back. It's not fun to be in that thing. And then we're gonna get rasped pretty bad by the boys back in Cold Lake.
But they will be back. Like it or not, they can't finish the fighter program until they beat the centrifuge.
Good morning. This is the COC. The wing is at security alert level 4. Report any security concerns to your unit security supervisor or wing SAMP. Have a great Air Force day.
Any fighter pilot will tell you, it's not about the glamour, it's about the guts. Specifically, how to keep them intact.
Okay, you have to sign in.
Welcome to the Seat from Hell 101.
Gather around so you can see these.
But this seat from hell could be a fighter pilot's ticket to survival. Even as far back as the Second World War, engineers realized that the escalating speed of fighter planes meant pilots could no longer bail out the old-fashioned way. They needed something that would literally catapult them out of the cockpit. In the F-18 Hornet, it's the Martin Baker ejection seat.
Okay, right now we're going to start in strap in.
A pilot is snared in a web of belts and buckles. 4 straps for the legs.
And this one.
Another 6 for the torso. Pin the pilot to his seat during violent maneuvers.
Push on the button, lift up on the red handle. Good. Lock.
They also prevent him from being torn apart if he has to eject.
It's the pilot's last-ditch attempt for his life. And you're going to ratchet yourself back.
The F-18 ejection seat may be a pilot's lifeline, but it will be the most violent and terrifying rescue imaginable.
Pins are out, you're ready to go. This is what fires you out. This is all full of TNT, full of charges.
With an ejection seat, you're essentially sitting on a giant rocket, and you've got to learn it in such a way that it's instinctive, because you can't stop and think. There's no time.
Even in slow motion, it happens fast. Pilot and seat literally explode out of the airplane. When they're clear, another charge blows the seatbelts and deploys the parachute. It all happens in just 2 seconds.
Your spine will compress approximately an inch, inch and a half when you eject.
What happened when I pulled the handle? Well, the first thing that I remember is somebody fired a shotgun right beside my ear, okay? And that was the canopy going off. It sounded just like a shotgun. Bang!
Major Joseph Mullins was forced to eject from his F-18 when he was about to skid off the end of the runway.
I don't remember the canopy going, and then everything went dark green. Didn't lose consciousness, but I lost vision going up the rail. Away I go. Vision came back, and I'm tumbling through the air.
An amateur video taken at an air show shows a pilot ejecting in exactly the same circumstances as Major Mullins. And the camera from inside the plane captures his landing, showing just how hard he hits the ground.
Went feet, knees, head. Boom. And I remember just laying there going, holy crap, for a second. Way worse than any hockey hit or anything. Like, it was hard.
But there are worse things than landing on the ground. One of a pilot's greatest fears is having to parachute into open water. Knowing exactly what to do in the first few seconds after hitting the water is critical.
Well, suction valves are there.
Riel, for the love of God, we want her to fly.
Ready? Okay.
So the test is to get free from the harness before you're pulled to the end of the pool. Then get out from under this canopy before it pulls you under.
Half the time when you eject, you're passed out. So when you wake up and you're in the middle of the air and you look down, then you don't have time to react. You just gotta do it. Go!
It looks easy enough in the heated pool of the base rec center. But imagine this is the icy North Atlantic.
If it happens in real life, the water's probably going to be freezing cold, and you got a whole lot of other things to think about.
Excellent, sir.
You have to practice these things to get them second nature.
Just try to untangle yourself. Get almost there, sir. Excellent. Okay.
Easy to get tangled up.
Yeah, it is very easy, sir.
It's very different. Wow, I couldn't believe it, actually. It's harder than it looks.
At this point, everything they do is about making life or death decisions automatic. Before they're allowed to climb into the real cockpit, they'll spend hours in the dark isolation of the F-18's flight simulator.
Emergency Cougar 25 Tower, copy 10 miles, call 5 with gear.
Instructors throw in emergency after emergency while the students struggle to keep up.
Cougar 25 Tower, overshoot, overshoot, overshoot.
Cougar 25 overshooting.
But eventually, these procedures will be seared into their brains.
Check the rudder.
More rudder. Here's that flat strap.
Emergency Cougar 25, you're cleared to straight in. Call 10 and 5.
By now, they're under so much pressure, there's barely time to eat.
Seamus, are you coming, or?
Gonna stay and study a little bit more.
Lunch isn't on the menu for Seamus. Instead, he makes a beeline for an open cockpit.
I could sleep in this baby. I was gonna save sitting in the jet till my first flight, but there's too much to know.
At the top of the list are the critical emergencies that require a pilot to react instantly, the so-called red pages. In a machine as complex as the F-18, failures are inevitable. But red page emergencies are potentially fatal. Things like an engine fire that will cripple the jet, a fuel leak, landing gear failure, or a cockpit that suddenly fills with smoke, blinding the pilot.
If you got smoke in the cockpit, it's better to know where the switch is without having to look at it, you know?
If a pilot has to think before acting in these situations, he'll be a hole in the ground before he remembers the answer. Because when you fly a supersonic fighter, the question is not if trouble will find you.
I'm gonna have to eject.
But when. No matter how minor In the world of fighter pilots, there are no secrets. And even if they tried, there's always a witness. Every time a fighter jet leaves the ground, the mission is taped. The heads-up display, or HUD, shows the pilot things like speed, altitude, and G-forces. Everything a pilot sees is recorded, and everything he says.
What was that?
Also along for the ride,
Engine fire left.
a computerized companion.
Lead air right.
Fighter pilots call her Bitchin' Betty.
Altitude. Altitude.
And this instructor's heard her voice nagging at him more than once.
I am happy that I'm here to talk about it. The alternative is not very pleasant. The thing is, you're flying a fast airplane and you're going to get yourself in trouble someday.
Patrick Peltier, call sign Peanut, has cheated death several times. He's a guy who likes to live on the edge, in his airtime and his spare time. A self-described emergency magnet. In his 15 years on jets, Peanut has survived so many he's lost count, including this heart-stopper.
We kind of just rotated away from each other like this as we missed. I mean, I could count the rivets on the metal of the airplane. And I clearly remember that, just seeing the top of the tail in my face like this. And I figured we only missed by inches.
Close calls like that are rare. More common, the kind of trouble a pilot runs into when he pushes the jet too far. The same traits that make fighter jets agile and maneuverable also make them extremely twitchy when they're driven to the limit. The secret to the F-18's fighting abilities is the fact that it can fly slowly, nose high, without stalling, a big plus in a dogfight. But push it a whisker too far, and the F-18 pushes back, hard. In a worst-case scenario, the jet starts gyrating back and forth, slamming from side to side. Pilots call it the falling leaf, and it's terrifying.
0G, kind of floating in your seat. Then you hit this wall as a side force, and that's when it reverses direction, and you go back the opposite direction.
And the whole time, the plane is dropping like a brick, screaming towards the ground. Once it picks up enough speed, it will recover, but...
The problem is it takes 10,000 feet sometimes to do that.
It was just 6,000 feet from the dirt when the plane decided to play rough with the 410 Squadron's own master of disaster. But the HUD recording from that flight makes for great show and tell.
There it is. I'm going to have to eject. That's a sound you don't want to hear.
It was a routine training exercise. Peanut and a mock enemy plane closing fast on him.
He brings his nose on to me. I try to jam him.
Then, Peanut makes another steep, hard turn in the opposite direction to throw the bandit off his tail. Instead, the plane throws Peanut into the dreaded falling leaf.
There it is. Like 60 degrees, nose down, screaming towards the ground.
The F-18 has a hard and fast rule. It's still not stable enough to touch the controls until its speed hits 180 knots.
And it just felt like an eternity as the friggin' trees are getting bigger and bigger.
In situations like this, the smartest thing a pilot can do is take his hands off the controls and wait. It's the ultimate test of faith in the machine.
Speed brakes and throttle idle. I got my hands on the towel racks, and I'm just like, come on, 180. Oh no, it's showing signs of recovery. And I got my 180 back under control, and I roll the airplane up and recover from the dive, and I recover at about 2,000 feet above the ground.
2,000 feet above the ground and 3 seconds from oblivion.
I think I'm just happy that I'm here to talk about it, is what it is, rather than being a smoking hole in the ground.
This is the stuff we live for. It's awesome.
The life of a student revolves around study, stress, and sleep deprivation. And right now, these fighter pilots in training are battling all three. It's a last-minute cram session for their first big written exam.
That number is 23.5 and 23.6 with a centerline test.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. You're not getting anything in, you know that. Last-minute effort.
Absorb.
With their first flights just days away, passing this test is critical. And when it comes to the emergencies or red page portion of the exam, the pass mark is 100%. To the instructors, demanding perfection is not unreasonable. It's personal.
Who knows what we'll be doing in 2 or 3 years' time. We could be getting ready for combat operations, and it could be one of those guys flying in my formation.
Doesn't that master doesn't go on? That's when the flaps
All right, I just corrected your red pages, and everybody got it right, except for one person. They messed up.
You messed up one line, right?
Yes, that's a he. Just get familiar with dual bleed.
Seamus has made one tiny error.
Oh, it is possible. I had possible too.
The danger in the dual bleed emergency is a serious risk of engine damage or fire, so it's critical to land the jet as soon as possible. Seamus wrote as soon as practical, not good enough.
So, dual bleed warning.
Okay, so throttles minimum practical for flight. Bleed knob switch off. Maintain below 25,000 feet altitude. And resting hook down and land as soon as possible for the yellow pages.
Cool. That
Done.
easy.
Good.
It was only one mistake, so you just have to do it verbally.
Okay.
Normally 2 mistakes, you have to rewrite the red pages.
All of them?
Yeah, the entire red pages. Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Carry on.
When you're writing them all out, you can mix up, small words, land as soon as practical versus land as soon as possible. I just messed it up, I think if I really had that in real life, I would definitely land as soon as possible.
Having survived the first few weeks, there's a little celebration in store.
I think I didn't take the dry cleaning tag off.
No, you didn't.
No fuss-free flight suits tonight. They're suiting up instead for their official welcome party.
5 minutes to get beers out on the counter, so do that.
Some welcome party.
They're going to walk around with trays in their hand and treat the rest of us like gods.
It's tough to feel like the guest of honor when you're treated like the hired help.
They're going to look different than everybody else, and that's the idea, to center them out. That's the whole idea of this place, basically, is to center you out.
Our token chick, no, only joking.
And no one stands out in the testosterone-filled world of the fighter culture more than a woman. But Riel has a not-so-secret weapon. While she dresses like a girl, she has always played like a boy.
I can fit in with them. I had all the dresses on and everything, but I was out playing soccer and playing in the mud and digging up worms and beating up boys in my dress.
Go kick their butts. Enjoy. Congratulations.
We'll throw a few cubes in there. It's a social event, but it's a time to start to find out what kind of people they are and pick on them a little bit and start to develop that camaraderie that we're going to need. It's their first party in the cougar den, so they'll get a little wild, right?
He's a drunkard through and through. He's a drunkard, so they say. Try to go to heaven, but he went the other way, so great.
Even the commanding officers abide by the rituals. In this case, joining in on the beer call.
There are times when you'll go into a dogfight and he's actually covering your ass on the way in there. Nothing builds that trust, that camaraderie, than a good piss up in the bar the night before.
Every fighter pilot in Canada has been through this unit, so we're now connected to everyone that's ever been and that ever will be a part of 410 Squadron.
It's a fighter fraternity that's thick as family, with codes of conduct. Like, if Friday night ends before Saturday morning, you're not doing it right. But for some, the good times are about to come to an abrupt end.
Keep focused. Looking good.
Ask any fighter pilot, and they'll all tell you the same thing. They hate the centrifuge. But for Mike Lewis and Yannick Jobin, it's not just unpleasant, it's potentially disastrous. They've already failed the G-load test year, and until they pass it, their future as fighter pilots is in jeopardy.
These guys are jet pilots, and they know themselves that they've got to be able to pull J's.
Yannick Jobin is up first.
1, 2, out!
If he does well, then pump me up to do well.
So really get aggressive. Give it all you got.
And we're going to launch this AR-6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1.
Out! 1, 2, out! 3, 1, 2, out! 1, 2, out! 1, 2, out! 1, 2, out! 1. All right, yes, I did it. Right on. Okay. Good job. Right on.
It's about time.
Mike Lewis is next.
Yeah, you could do this, Mike. Yeah, have it. Just be aggressive on the breathing. 1, 2, That's it. You got it. You're gonna get it. Okay, Mike?
All right, let's do this.
Okay, Mike.
We're going to launch our 6 for 15 in 3, 2, 1.
1, 2, out! 1, 2, out! Keep it going! Keep it going! Come on!
No. Okay, Mike. Put your head back. Mike, put your head back. Mike, put your head back. Mike, you're back with us.
Hello. The headset.
My life sucks.
Got at least 6 months to get back and come back and try it again. We're going to send him back to Cold Lake.
Watching you breathe, you need to get really more aggressive with the chest. Okay.
Lewis is in more trouble than he knows. The Air Force will give him one more chance. Then it's over. Flying an F-18 is all he's ever wanted to do. It's all any of them has ever wanted. So what happens next back in Cold Lake is a twist no one saw coming. News, one of the team, has suddenly called it quits.
I don't want someone flying on my wing who's not 100% interested in doing this business.
That's next time on Jetstream.